So I think the biggest advantage that chemistry EE has is it has a lot more flexibility compared to a chemistry IA. Students are able to choose topics that might be more interesting to them, might be more challenging, might be more open-ended, without the fear that they need a certain amount of data or a certain data set that they need to analyze. I've had students that have been able to tackle much more complex procedures because they haven't had to do that procedure 15 times. I've had students that have been able to order experimental chemicals to the school and use that, which would not have been available for an IA. And I've had students that have been able to use pieces of equipment such as scanning electron microscopes at universities and yeah, do that type of work with a lot more flexibility, and they've really enjoyed it. So I think right off the bat, it is just going back to that first point, is a lot of students do believe it is kind of just a rehashing of what a chemistry IA is. They think that it must be an experiment. They think that there has to be 5 IVs and at least 3 trials of everything. So then once they kind of realize that no, that they can look at it from a different lens, they're not tightly restricted, then I think the ideas start flowing more. It doesn't have to be experimental in nature, although all of my chemistry EEs have been. And I've seen students that have done their experimentation in the lab with me after school or during weekends and been able to get all the data they needed in one half day or one afternoon. I've had students that have collected data with water tanks and involving chlorine and chemicals by the pool over the summer holidays. I've had students that have been able to collect their data at home, and I've let them get access to the equipment they needed, and they've taken it home. So it's nice. Again, flexibility is the key, to have that additional flexibility with an EE. I guess a frequently asked questions or something that students are kind of apprehensive about is this experiment going to work? Like I'm trying something that is a university level procedure, or that is quite complex. I'm using equipment that I've never used before, and if something goes wrong in my procedure, am I failing my EE? And thankfully the answer to that is, well, no, right? It's the process that we're interested in, and the EE is a chance for you to kind of push yourselves. And I've had students that have had mixed experimental results, but have learned a tremendous amount and have churned out amazing EEs just from the process. Lots of really interesting topics. I can just talk about some that have been chosen. I had a student on a swim team that chose the effects of chlorine on the spandex and the different rubber polymers of swimsuits, and how chlorine as a chemical kind of degrades that swimsuit. He really enjoyed it because he's a swimmer, also a chemist interested in chemistry, and that kind of connected with him. I had another student that had a relationship with a university and really wanted to use a scanning electron microscope, and he was able to find a question that allowed him to use a scanning electron microscope, which he found really rewarding. Another student interested in antioxidants in foods. Hear about antioxidants, they seem to be able to cure everything that ails the body, and he wanted to know kind of what are the values of antioxidants in different foods and what he was looking at. And finally, another student that was interested in acid rain and the remediation of kind of waterways and how we could get some of these acidified bodies of water and kind of treat them and neutralize the acid to bring them back to life. So I think the key takeaway is, I think with chemistry IAs, especially if they're in experimental in nature, they do require more time, I would say, on average than a typical IA. I think with all 4 of those examples, the students that you talk to, they could say that they spent quite a bit of time on it, because there was the experimental piece, and then there's of course the writing piece that has to go along with it as well. But in all 4 of those cases, I think they thoroughly enjoyed what they were looking at. I didn't notice a huge amount of stress. I think that they were interested and curious, and they answered their question. So I think they got a lot out of it.